6 free tools beat Claude Code and Cursor, and not on a technicality. Aider automatically commits every AI edit to Git with a real message, something Cursor simply does not do. OpenCode gives a terminal-full IDE-level code understanding. These are capabilities you are paying a subscription to not have. And the last one audits your whole stack for prompt injection holes and spans every other tool here from one config, something no paid option even attempts. Number 6, Gemini CLI. This is Google's open source coding agent that lives in your terminal, and the reason it's on this list is dead simple. It's free frontier model access with almost no strings. You install it with NPM, you log in with a personal Google account. That's the whole setup. No card, no subscription, no waitlist. Once you're in, the free tier gives you roughly 1,000 requests a day. Google can change that number whenever it wants, but the ceiling has stayed generous, and for a solo builder doing real work, 1,000 prompts a day is effectively unlimited. You will not hit that ceiling writing code by hand. What makes it more than a toy is the grounding. It's got Google Search wired in, so when it needs a current library version or an API that changed last month, it can actually go look instead of hallucinating from stale training data. That's a genuine edge over tools that only know what they were trained on. Here's the catch, and it's a real one. That 1,000 a day limit is generous for a human typing prompts. It is not generous for an agent running in a loop. The moment you point Gemini CLI at an automated pipeline, say a CI job that fires dozens of calls to review every commit, you burn through the quota fast. So the honest framing is this. Gemini CLI is your free daily driver for hands-on coding. It is not your free automation backend. Treat the first as true and the second as a trap. Number 5, Claude Code. This one exists because of a mistake. Claude Code's source leaked. That leak spawned derivative projects, and the biggest of them, Claude Code, has pulled in well over 100,000 GitHub stars. Think about what that number means. A leaked codebase, cleaned up and reshipped as an open project, pulled in more stars in a matter of months than most funded startups see in their lifetime. That tells you how hungry developers are for a Claude Code free of the subscription and the closed source. The appetite was already there. The leak just handed them the raw material. And it works. You get the terminal agent experience people liked in the original, minus the paywall, plus whatever the community bolts on next. But this is the one I'd be most careful with, so let me be straight about it. It's leak-derived. The provenance is murky, the licensing story is not clean the way Aider's Apache license or OpenCode's MIT license is clean, and if you're shipping inside a company that cares about where its tooling came from, that history is a liability you're inheriting. The bigger point Claude Code actually proves is about the whole category. This ecosystem is fragmenting and recombining every few weeks. Any tool built on a leak can vanish or fork or get lawyered out of existence just as fast as it appeared. Use it if you're experimenting on your own machine. Do not build your team's workflow on top of it. Number 4, CC Switch. The name reads like a code string, but think of it as a control panel. Every tool so far has been one agent living in a terminal. This one is the opposite, and it's the piece that replaces the thing you're actually paying Cursor for, the polished graphical surface that ties everything together. CC Switch is a cross-platform desktop app built in Rust on the Tauri framework, and its whole job is to sit above your CLI agents and let you drive them without touching a terminal. It's a proper graphical control panel, and it currently manages 7 different tools from one window: Claude Code, Codex, OpenCode, Gemini CLI, and a few newer ones it's added. You switch between agents with a click. You abstract away each one's provider config, the API keys and endpoints and model settings, into one place. And it sits at well over 100,000 stars, so plenty of people wanted exactly this. The reason this matters is a workflow reality nobody talks about. Serious builders don't use one agent. They use the fast, cheap one for boilerplate and the expensive, careful one for the hard refactor. And juggling 3 separate terminal tools with 3 separate config files is annoying. CC Switch makes that juggling a menu. It does not write a single line of your code. It's a router, not an agent. Its value is entirely a function of how many agents you're already running. If you live inside one tool and one model, this solves a problem you don't have. But the second you're stack hopping, and if you're taking this list seriously, you will be, it turns a mess of terminals into one clean surface. That single graphical surface is the main thing Cursor charges you for, except CC Switch puts it on top of free agents you already control. Number 3, OpenCode. If you want the single, strongest terminal coding agent on this list, this is it, and the numbers back that up. Over 160,000 GitHub stars, and millions of developers on it every month. Built in Go by the team behind the SST serverless framework, so these are people who ship infrastructure for a living. Here's the feature that separates it from everything else that lives in a terminal. OpenCode ships full language server protocol integration. In plain terms, LSP is the same engine that powers autocomplete and go to definition in a real IDE. It understands types, it understands where a function is called from, it sees the compiler's own diagnostics. So when OpenCode's AI edits your code, it isn't reading your files as flat text the way most agents do. It sees the structure the way your editor sees it. That richer context is why its edits tend to be smarter about a real codebase. It also ships 2 agents you flip between with the tab key. There's build, which has full read, write, and shell access, the one that actually does the work. And there's plan, which is read-only, so you can let the model scope out a change and propose an approach with zero risk of it touching anything. That read-only planning mode is a good safety habit that Cursor doesn't hand you by default. Now the trade-off, and it's documented. A developer at Builder.io ran OpenCode head-to-head against Claude Code on the same task. Claude Code finished in about 9 minutes. OpenCode took over 16. But on that same job, OpenCode wrote 94 tests, where Claude Code wrote 73. That's the whole tool in one number. It's slower because it's more thorough. If you want the answer this second, that's a cost. If you want the answer to actually hold up, that's the point. Number 2, Aider. This is the one from the hook, and it's the one I'd tell most people to install first, because it does something no closed IDE wrapper does out of the box. Aider commits every single AI edit to Git automatically, with a real, descriptive commit message. Not a snapshot, not an undo buffer, an actual Git commit. Sit with what that gives you. Every change the model makes is its own reviewable, revertable, auditable step in your history. When the AI does something dumb 3 edits ago, you don't untangle it by hand. You check out the commit before it, and you're clean. Cursor's default workflow doesn't do this. You get a blob of changes and the job of figuring out what happened. Aider gives you a paper trail. For anyone doing vibe coding, letting the model run and steering it loosely, that Git safety net is the difference between fearless and reckless. It's also smart about your codebase without wasting tokens. It builds what it calls a repo-map using treesitter, a real syntax parser. So it pulls out your function signatures and class definitions and feeds the model the shape of your project without dumping every file into the context window. And after each change, it runs your linters and your test suite on its own. And if something breaks, it loops back and tries to fix it. That autonomous fix the tests loop is exactly the kind of thing you'd expect to pay for. The scale is real too. By one review's count, Aider is processing something like 15 billion tokens a week across its users. The Noose research team liked it enough to fold it into their own agent system as a component. This is battle-tested, not a weekend project. The honest catch, Aider is terminal only. There is no visual IDE, no side-by-side diff panel, none of the point-and-click comfort Cursor sells. If your team has developers who won't live in a terminal, the free alternative argument breaks right there. Not on capability, but on interface. But if you're comfortable at a command line, Aider gives you a Git-native, self-testing coding agent for $0. And that's a serious Cursor alternative by any measure. Number 1, ECC, Everything Claude Code. This is the one that isn't really a single tool. It's the layer you wrap around all the others, and it does the one thing nobody else on this list even tries. It treats your AI agents as a security problem. It was open sourced by a developer named Afan Mustafa, and it exploded. Star counts vary wildly depending on the snapshot, so treat the headline number loosely. Either it grew absurdly fast, or some of those stars are inflated. But star counting aside, look at what actually ships. The current version packages dozens of agents, hundreds of skills, plus hooks, rules, and an orchestrator that coordinates them. And the piece that matters most is the security scanner. It audits your agent configs, your Claude Code setup, your keys, your rules, for misconfigurations. And critically, for prompt injection risk. That's the attack where someone hides an instruction inside a file or a web page your agent reads, and the agent obeys it. No other tool in this category ships a scanner for that. When you're letting an autonomous agent run shell commands on your machine, that's not a nice to have. The other trick is that ECC is cross-harness. One config layer, and it works across Claude Code, Codex, OpenCode, Cursor, Gemini CLI, Zed, and Copilot. So everything else on this list can sit underneath it. It's carrying over 1,200 tests at near total coverage, which for a project this young is a real signal someone's taking the engineering seriously. Now the caveat you have to hear, because critics raise it fairly, running an agent locally with a security scanner does not magically make you safe if your model call still travels to a provider's servers. The scanner hardens your local configuration. It does not encrypt the round trip to the API. Truly air-gapped only holds if you're running a local model. So don't oversell it to yourself. What ECC actually gives you is the thing the $20 closed IDE wrapper never will. Visibility into and control over your own agent stack, and a check on the one class of attack that becomes real the moment you hand an AI a shell.